Hi there, it's Catherine, your lawyer friend and guide, and this is the #1 podcast for legal careers in Japan. Hi everyone, and welcome back to Lawyer on Air. This is part 2 of my conversation with Natsue Ishida, Vice President, Executive Officer, and Managing Director of Legal and IP at Sega Sammy Holdings. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, click pause and go back and take a listen to that episode first. In this part 2 episode, we move into the world of governance and leadership. We discuss the distinction between a general counsel and a chief legal officer and why those roles are not always one and the same. Natsue shares her insights from her experience operating both as a lawyer and as an executive officer and what that means when balancing legal judgment, business priorities, governance responsibilities, and respect for founders and management. We also talk about something that I think is particularly important for lawyers. How do you continue growing beyond your day job and your responsibilities? Natsue herself is doing pro bono work with the Global Council for Responsible AI, a role that has allowed her to contribute to an emerging area while expanding her own expertise and perspective. It is a wonderful reminder that some of the most meaningful work in our professional growth can come from opportunities outside of our formal job description. And please do stay with us to the end. Natsue shares a fabulous poem that had a profound impact on her life and career. So let's get into part 2 of this fascinating conversation.
Recently, there's a lot of discussions around the chief legal officer.
Right. Tell me some more about that.
Yeah, so in Japan, I hear more of that than general counsel. I think though, and I'm often asked, what is the difference? And these days, I do see it being used interchangeably. And sometimes in some companies, and maybe in most companies where there are general counsels, the chief legal officers and general counsel are the same people. But it's not always the other way around is the true. So I think chief legal officer it is, as the name would indicate, it's an officer role and it's a corporate executive or officer position. So that is a little bit different, I think, role than the general counsel, who I think the origin comes from the counsel part. It was a legal advisor and usually a lawyer. So I feel like the CLO is a corporate leadership role, whereas general counsel is a profession-based role. And yeah,
I tend to agree. Yeah, it's different. CLO may not necessarily be a lawyer.
right, exactly.
It could be, but it
The
may not
scope
be.
of responsibility would be, all the legal matters within the company. But yeah, that could be two different people
It
as
could
well.
be two different people. It could be CLO and GC, or CLO may have a GC working alongside them in the team. And I
Right.
think you're right in calling out it is officer. And maybe it's just a trend of having C suite names, CXO, CLO, CFO,
Yes.
CEO, and it sounds cool to have it.
Yes.
And that must mean that it's exactly the same thing. Yes and no, it's actually probably not. And it's a great discussion to have, perhaps over an emerald colored cocktail sometime. But
Yes.
I love this idea, and I think it's worthy of some writing to have it out there in a debate, a healthy debate on what it really means to be a CLO compared to being
Yeah.
a general counsel. It's a very great topic, but I tend to agree with you on your line. So I'd be interested to hear what people think who are listening to this.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
would be very interested as well because
yeah.
I have thought very long and hard about this since
Mm,
because I am currently in this Japanese company environment
yes.
and some of them have encountered a general counsel before, but they really haven't sort of a natural sense of what that means. And
Mm,
I've learned that if you haven't seen something, it's really hard to understand by just somebody describing things to you.
absolutely.
And so that's why I started to think about a way that I can describe what is this general counsel and what is the
Mm,
CLO. And it's an evolving thing, even
interesting.
within me.
Yeah, I noticed on your profile that you have from March this year, you do have a new role or an
Yes. Additional role, yes.
additional role, right? As Global Counsel for Responsible AI. And it is the first time I have seen
Mhm.
somebody have that role because everyone's talking about responsible AI or AI governance. But to see you having this actual title, and I see that also Chief Legal Officer is tucked in there, and you're a volunteer of that. That's interesting.
I,
But
I was thinking to change that to pro bono.
oh, okay. Global Council of Responsible AI. We have to go there on the next question before we wind up the conversation because it's just such a big topic. And I'd love to hear your inspiring thoughts on AI governance and what this means and what this role is going to be like and evolve over the next 5 years or so. It's maybe something for you that's hard to predict, but I've seen so many conversations and articles and people commenting on this hiring cliff, right? An employment cliff, an enrollment cliff
Mhm.
inside universities that it's going to be very different and very difficult to have younger lawyers coming out of law school and starting a law career in the same way and hiring for the same roles that we did. AI is definitely impacting, but I think in your role, AI governance is about how the company is dealing with governing AI within the company itself.
Mhm.
Is
Mhm.
that right? And
Yeah.
so maybe you could tell me a little bit more about this role because obviously it exists and you're one of the pioneers of it, I would say, in Japan. You can tell me something different if that's the case.
Well, it's interesting because the CLO role for the Global Council for Responsible AI is the same as CLO role for anything else, right? I am the person
Mm,
responsible for all the legal matters and, securing that the company
right.
is meeting all the legal regulatory requirements and helping with any disputes or litigations if there's anything that would come up. And so even, something as simple as reviewing contracts or reviewing documents that might have legal impact for the company. So as the CLO of this organization, I am doing essentially the same thing as what I'm doing, in my normal day job. But the subject of my advisory is, of course, this the framework of operationalizing AI governance to secure that technology is, in line with the human values and helping to innovate and to enhance decision making processes. And so all these things that we hope the technology of AI and generative AI will do for us and not against us.
Yes.
And then on the other hand, in my role at my current job, Segasami, as the in-house legal who is advising the management and the business divisions on how they frame their AI governance, how they create the rules, how they want to make sure that our data and our IP is protected. On that end, I am actually advising on how that governance is structured.
Mm.
So I have this kind of a two roles.
Two roles. Yeah. So you've got yours, as you're calling it, day job, but this other volunteer pro bono Global Council for Responsible AI Chief Legal Officer. That's one whole title, right?
Yes.
So I have to ask you how it came up. Is it something you put your hand up for? Is it something that you thought this needs to be looked at, but it doesn't need to be tucked in underneath what I'm doing now, but it can be separate too? And it's something I'm kind of interested in. So
Ah,
I'd love to do it on so-called the side. And it
mhm,
may actually eventuate into somebody who is in that role
mhm,
properly, right? Not pro
mhm.
bono, not
Yes, of
volunteer.
course, of
So
course.
I'm just riffing here in a way, asking you about it. But is it
Mhm.
something that you kind of suggested?
Well, first of all, I have been building on this area of
Mm,
expertise of well, it started from data privacy, my data privacy expertise, which led me to be involved in cybersecurity.
yes.
From there, I met this area of AI governance.
Right.
And one key person who kind of pulled me into this field is the CEO of this Global Council for Responsible AI. And she is also a person who organized this event in Japan called
Mm,
Cybersecurity Woman of Japan Awards every
yeah.
year. And initially, she had contacted me through a common mutual friend to see if I can assist with her to try and organize this event in Japan. And so I started to be involved in this event. I think I really support the cause of the event. And I think it's great that she's trying to help all these younger women to get into the world of cybersecurity where there's, first of all, not even enough talent
Mm,
pool. And then she wanted to try and bring this area into a more open for women who wanted to challenge themselves, get into this sciences area, right? So
mm,
technology and sciences area. So I was just supporting and helping out with various initiatives, and then this Global Council for Responsible AI was initially it started last year in February. So it's been a
mm,
year and a bit
mm.
since this organization was put in place. And then at the time, initially, she was trying to, of course, gather supporters in various regions to communicate about the importance of using AI responsibly and making sure there's human element in the use and to help innovation. So then there was this role called global ambassador
Right.
uh, of
Wow. Okay.
of the Global Council for Responsible AI. So
Okay.
it was an ambassador, so it was a communicator role. And I thought, well, yeah, I can do that. I can, try to and part of the role was to try and help them to understand how are things in Japan at the moment with respect to AI laws and governance, and then the other way around of sort of trying to let people know about the initiatives of this council. So, so I started out like that, and then after about a year, I was contacted by the CEO again, and she was asking if I would be interested in this role.
Ah, I see.
And I actually took maybe a month or so to think about
Oh,
it. I think I was really interested, but then I knew that it would be also a true, responsibility, and it could potentially take some time and effort away from other things that I maybe want to or should be doing. And so I thought about and I asked, what does the role involve? What is the expected commitment time?
mm,
And came to a point where I could say, yes, I can do that.
right. within
And
your
so,
time that
yeah,
you can manage. Yeah, your
yeah,
capacity.
within exactly.
Yeah.
So that was the kind of a
How
background.
interesting. Are they an MPO or what's their structure?
Yes, yes,
Right.
they are NPO,
And can
yes.
others join you or join this organization and be on
Yes,
the mission?
yes. There is a process that you
Yes.
can go through to apply for positions. And there are different kinds of positions. And in fact, if you go to their website, gcrai.ai, there's a page called Positions.
Mm,
And there you can think about becoming a country governor, global ambassador, which, I was the global ambassador, and certified member, certified organization. Certified member actually you can do as an individual. You take a whole study and then yeah, exam. Yeah.
yeah.
And then there are supporter roles and things like that. But yeah,
Perfect.
there's ways to be involved. So
Wow.
we would
There you go.
certainly welcome everyone.
You heard it here first. I think there'll be people tapping. It'll be the one that's searched a lot on Google, this GCRAI.ai. Thank you so much. So, Natsue, you've operated globally, but you're now, as you've been mentioning, deeply embedded inside Japan. Is there a distinction, do you think, between governance and leadership between, say, in Japan and outside of Japan? Perhaps there's a Japanese or Japan lens that you might be able to help us understand that's a little bit different to outside of Japan.
Yeah, sure. Many company boards, I think even those publicly listed in Japan, still hold this strong loyalty or sense of loyalty towards the original founder or the owner or their families who might have taken over the company. And so the so-called sontak that you hear,
Yes.
the
Yes.
act of sort of implicitly or anticipating and accommodating the wishes or the intentions of the founder, owner family is still often seen even at the board level. And, everyone wants to do the right thing for the company, but also wants to honor the founder or the owner's wishes. And so this really calls for creative ways to bring critical issues to the board's attention. And one way that I have figured out is, for example, the legal department to collaborate or form an alliance with other departments, compliance or the finance or the planning,
Hmm.
internal audit, and also bring in other allies, even external auditors, to help steer the discussion or to pass a decision. And I think when I first started to see this in Japanese companies, I was, I don't know, a little bit put off by
Hmm.
these people in the roles where you're supposed to really act for the best of the company and then would not be able to really perform and in that capacity, or at least that's kind of how it felt to me. But then I've kind of learned how to let go of this just rational self for a moment and
Hmm.
try to relate to, I mean, seemingly irrational motivations, right? Because, you just, let's say, oh, I feel like I should just consider how the founder or owner would feel, kind of was for me an irrational thing when it comes to business. But part of it comes from the Japanese culture, or maybe a little bit of this national character of being almost overly considerate of others. And that could be a positive thing, like a caring thing, but it could also become sort of a weakness. But what I learned is don't judge by the actions only, but what is inside their hearts. So, they really want to do what is the best. And then you can finally try to help the person to achieve this objective, to protect what is important to that person. And and then I could see what this person is trying to do is quite actually similar and, in the same direction as what I think is going to help the company. So yeah, just kind of seeing it through that other person's eyes. And you can imagine I've been away from Japan, so maybe I hadn't been seeing through the Japanese people's eyes in that sense.
Yeah, I think you've even gone deeper than simply a Japanese person's lens. You've gone into a founder's lens, and that is so part of them in their DNA, in their skin, that they wake up in every day, and it's their whole being, right? That it's more than simply the company. The company is a person that they are looking after
Mhm.
and keeping it healthy and making sure the founder's passion is continuing through if you're a descendant of the founder. These are just so important in Japan. And I think you've brought out an amazing point is that if you are going to be working with, right, isn't there 95% of companies in Japan are actually SMEs and founder based companies
Mhm.
rather than the large companies that are representative of Japan? They're actually less than the smaller companies. You're going to come across this at some point and
Yeah.
understanding the founder, that's rational to them to be passionate,
Yeah.
right? It's not irrational, whereas we might think it is if you're sitting over here on another rational wavelength. So
Mm.
I really love that you've brought that out. Having worked with founder myself, I was writing some notes here and thinking, yes, this is exactly how it feels. And understanding that person or those people who are the founding family or founding owners or descendants thereof is so vital for having a successful and happy relationship with them as an advisor.
Yeah.
Thank you
I've
so
come
much for
to
sharing that.
love. Yeah, I've come to really love that
Yeah,
about
I'm with
Japan.
you. Goodness, I'm right with you
Mm.
there. Well, let's move into the final question I have for you before the quick fire round, which is if you could go back to the start of your career, you talked about not knowing you would be where you are now, right back then. But if you go back to that time before you stepped into your first roles, what would you tell yourself? That Natsue of that time. And I guess what would your future self say to you right now?
So let's see, to me before my first role,
Yeah, talk to that Natsue.
I would say the world may not change drastically in my lifetime, but I can start the small changes that will grow bigger as the baton is passed on. So I'm sowing the seeds today for people that come after me to
Mm,
see it blossom. I go back and think about how, yeah, I was a minority in at least a few ways when I started.
mm,
I was a younger Asian person in US and Europe
mm,
and a female. And there were probably some challenges I encountered, but I think now after a couple decades, I do see some changes that has been made over time. And I think everything counted
everything
that
counted.
I did, that every other person did. I think everything counted towards
Mm,
making things where it is now, even with
mm,
small changes.
mm. And your future self, looking back to you right now,
Right. I mean, right now,
right
I would
now,
say I should pay it forward.
pay it
That
forward.
I have been very lucky to have met leaders who taught me guided me, supported me, encouraged me throughout my career. And, I had great bosses, mentors, and other GC colleagues that I had great role models
Mm,
who I could go to when I had questions or concerns or doubts. And it's my turn
right.
to offer the same for the benefit of the next generation of leaders and councils.
Wonderful. I can't wait to see what you do. It's going to be fun. All right, well, let's get into the quick fire round. Are you ready for
All
it?
right. Yep. Sure.
I wonder, Natsue, if you have a book or a podcast, or maybe there's a leadership or a governance resource that you would recommend these lovely Lawyer on Air listeners who are listening right to the end here. What have you got for us?
So, this one book that has really stuck with me since I read it during my high school, actually, English class, called Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Do you know
Ah, I've
it?
heard of it.
It's a story about this father and son who's traveling across the US on motorcycle. And the book explores this meaning of quality, sort of through discussion of the motorcycle maintenance. And but the story is a reflection on sort of these tensions
Mm,
between modern life and meaning and professional success versus fulfillment and intellect versus emotion and systems versus individuality. And I think you can still see that kind of conflict, in our world today. And that I think struggle will probably never end. And there's one passage that I really like from this book. It reads like this: the truth knocks on the door, and you say, "Go away. I'm looking for the truth." And so it goes away, puzzling. And I often feel people might do the same with opportunities or chances. So I really like this phrase.
and that's where it finishes. It doesn't talk about truth coming back.
Nope.
It just goes away puzzled.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And I
it's up.
have this picture in my head of, the truth guy knocking on the door
Yeah.
and he says, "Go away. I'm looking for the truth."
Yeah.
Right? And the truth is like, "What?"
Hang on a minute. I'm the truth. What are you
Yeah,
doing? You're not ready for me.
exactly. Exactly.
You'll find me someday, but in the meantime, I'm kind of puzzled why you didn't let me in right
Yeah.
now.
Why you didn't
Why are
open
you
the door to
waiting?
me, right?
Whoa, that's very deep. I love it. Goodness
Yeah,
me.
yeah.
I'm just listening to you and thinking you must have so many superpowers, but I'm going to ask you what you think is your lawyer superpower.
Yeah, so this was also a tough question. I think imagination, because a person often comes with this problem that he tries to explain, but the story is usually missing a lot of pieces, and you kind of have to fill in the blanks yourself using your imagination based on hints of that scenario or the situation.
Yeah,
Plus, you have to have that in
yeah,
order to come up with solutions.
absolutely. And I think aligned to that is I can see you've got a lot of curiosity. So filling in some of those blanks would be you asking curious questions, I'm thinking as well. Mm.
Absolutely. Curiosity is a good one, in fact.
Well, it sounds like you were destined for law, but if you weren't a lawyer, what do you think you might be doing?
Yeah, I think actually I would be in maybe travel and hospitality
Mm.
because I think from time to time I remember thinking or even telling people that I would like to be for example, an okami of a ryokan or a camp manager in Africa. I actually went on this trip, wonderful trip in Africa, and there would be these great camps, and there were always a camp manager there. And I really at the time wanted that job.
Huh.
So, or maybe even a nature tour guide,
A nature tour
because
guide.
you know that I do climbing, rock climbing,
Yes, you do rock
and
climbing.
yeah, and I learned a lot from that as well.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think it would be great if I could do like a tour of the Jukai, the 4C of the Mount
Mm.
Fuji, or
Oh.
something like that.
Or how about you become an okami of a ryokan who does camp activities for people, including nature guiding, as you've just mentioned.
Yes,
Roll it
then
into
it would
one. It can be all
all
of
come
those.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that would be
Whoa.
ideal.
Love it. Well, I was going to ask you what people would be surprised about that they don't know about you, but perhaps rock climbing is one of those things. But is there anything else? Or is
Well,
that it? That's it.
I think people are often surprised at how little self-maintenance I do.
Oh, really?
I don't really go to the hair salon every month
Right.
like many of my friends.
Right.
I don't go to a nail salon. My nails are, in fact, always a little bit chipped because I do climbing. And I
Yes.
also usually have a number of scratches and bruises on my legs and
Yes.
arms from, these climbing excursions. And so,
Ah,
yeah, I'm a
wow.
very lowly maintenance person.
Wow. Do you at least have something like a massage or doing anything like that to get your physical aches and pains away from yourself and when after the rock climbing?
I do go to the spas when I'm on vacation.
Right. Yes.
Yeah,
Because that's kind of
yeah,
luxury, isn't it? And it's a treating yourself because you're
exactly.
away and on vacation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Time and place. Awesome.
Yes.
Well, one last question is I've been asking a few people recently is if you could describe your career as a metaphor, what would it be? Some have said water, others have said, one said an octopus. I wonder what your career metaphor is.
A road not taken.
Mm,
Do you know this famous poem written by Robert Frost? He's one of the most influential American poets.
yes.
Yeah, so this poem, I mean, I would almost read the whole thing to you, but I could send it to you. But I could read the last bit, which really is probably the most relevant.
Please do.
So the poem really starts with, two roads diverged in a yellow wood. So you can see two, separate roads. And at the end, so somewhere ages and ages hence, two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference.
I'm letting that sit. Yeah.
So if you can imagine, the poem is about this guy who sees two different paths,
Yeah.
and one path looks like, oh, this is the clear path, versus the other path is a little bit more, I don't know, grassy.
A little
And
overgrown.
he
Yeah.
decided to take that, grassy road.
Yeah. He took the grassy road.
Yep, he
That's
took
the
the
road you've
grassy
taken?
road. I think so.
I
I
think so
think
too.
so.
Wow. What a topic and thought to land on at the end of this conversation. It's been amazing. Thank you so much, Natsue, for being so grounded, speaking so slowly. I've been in the same vibe as you. I now feel very relaxed having listened to you today. I really thank you for joining me on Lawyer on Air. It's been an absolute pleasure to speak with you and connect in this way. Have you enjoyed today?
Thank you. Yes, yes, I do feel that, going through these questions and really thinking back and thinking about my career, my passion, things that are important to me, things that have impacted me, people that have influenced me, just having even that opportunity to push myself to do that. I've heard many of your podcasts and people speaking about their stories, but I think having actually gone through and trying to speak of my own story, it's a really great experience and something I think that will also help me, going forward to really direct me into the next stages of my career. So really, really appreciate you having invited me to join you and to join all the other great leaders. And you are so inspirational. I learned actually quite a lot from you and your guests, as well as things you write. So I really feel that you are a great leader and a role model for, I'm sure, many and many of us. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. That's lovely to hear that. And this podcast is like a classroom, and I'm not the teacher. I'm sitting in the middle of the room listening to all of these people around me telling amazing stories about their life, and I'm a facilitator to help them bring out those stories. And I love doing that role, and I really appreciate your comments there. Thank you very, very much. I am sure people listening will want to get in touch with you and have a coffee or join your organization as another volunteer or do something and speak with you. How can they get in touch with you? Would that be LinkedIn, or is there another place to get hold of you?
I think LinkedIn would be good. I do check it
Good.
quite often. So,
Well, that's great. And to the people who are listening, thank you so much for staying till the end. If you have enjoyed this episode, and I would imagine you have, please do give us feedback. This is a very important podcast, as Natsue has pointed out, because your feedback helps other people like you find this show and discover answers to questions that they had about careers in law and life in Japan, but they didn't know where to find them, but they found them right here. So that's all for today. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you back on the next episode. Cheers, kampai, and bye for now.